Right, true.
And here's a Democratic vote from Salt Lake.
This is Salt Lake City. This should be Salt Lake City. This is Democratic.
County Council.
It's County Council District 1.
Oh, it is. It is County Council. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Arlen Bradshaw and Calvin Noyes. This is a very liberal district of Salt Lake County, and I believe that this is the one where both of these candidates are avowed homosexuals. And so we will have our first probably have our first openly gay member of the Salt Lake County Council if things hold as they usually do in Salt Lake County District 1. Now the newest school district in Utah is having a bond election to build new schools and bring things more up to code. And right now, that is going down to defeat. That's a little bit surprising to me.
It is to me, too. Note that there's under 20% of the precincts reporting on this one.
Right, and we don't know where they're coming from,
exactly.
Again.
They would all be within that district.
Within that district, but where
exactly.
In that district?
And this is the district that's caused so much controversy, splitting off from the Jordan School District in terms
right.
of revenues and in some ways forcing the Jordan district into a financial crisis.
That's right. Utah County, this is your stomping ground.
This is, and Gary Anderson is up 55-45. Again,
he's the incumbent, is he not?
He is the incumbent. This was very close at the convention, within 2 percentage points, and we've got about 58% of the vote in. So likely still too close to call, but Anderson has a lead. And the county recorder's race was also challenged, forced to a vote of the people. And here Jeffrey Smith is leading pretty substantially. That one is not likely going to change.
You know, getting to know the candidates and their supporters is every voter's challenge. And getting on the internet, surfing the web is convenient, but as KBYU reporter Adam Belinsky shows us, it isn't always reliable.
Connor Boyack says he supports Mike Lee and has worked hard to improve Lee's online presence. So why would he post a YouTube video making fun of Lee, saying the candidate throws like a girl? Boyack says the answer is that he simply wouldn't, and he definitely didn't.
I didn't realize it until someone emailed me and said, you know, this seems confusing, is this you? And I watched the video that they had posted and some of the comments they had left on other people's YouTube videos, and absolutely was not me. This is clearly someone who knew who I was, that I was on Mike Lee's campaign. They then created this account to try and implicate me or something, I don't know.
YouTube's supposed Connor Boyack isn't the only fake Lee supporter who's uploading videos that probably don't have the effect real supporters would be going for. Like Boyack, Holly Richardson tries to use social media to win voters, but instead for Bridgewater. She says they've had their own share of online problems with people claiming to be real Bridgewater supporters.
I don't know. Are they Bridgewater supporters? Are they Mike Lee supporters trying to pretend to be Bridgewater supporters? It's been on both sides, and I think there has been some effectiveness, but so many of them are over the top.
Richardson says people have accused her of taking on a fake online identity to bash others' viewpoints.
Everybody was sure it was me. It was not me. I don't have time to be anybody but myself.
So how do you know who's who or what's what on the internet? Richardson says you just have to go to the campaigns.
Go to the source, ask questions. We get emails at the campaign all the time to say, hey, I heard about this. Is this true? And it gives us an opportunity to respond, which is much better than somebody just saying, oh, hey, I read this thing online. It must be true.
So if a video doesn't say something like,
I'm Mike Lee and I approve this message.
I'm Tim Bridgewater and I approve this message.
You'll probably want to take it with a grain of salt. Adam Belinsky, Election 2010.
You know, I've got to make an editorial comment here. That is horrible.
Yep.
That was just horrible.
What's shocking, Don, and we see this in other ways, in the mail, but now on the web, on the phones, is people say things that they would never say on television or radio ads. It's below the radar, they call it, and they go more negative, and they do these kinds of things, which are shocking, as was a mailer sent to the delegates on the Friday before, the day before the state convention, that accused Bob Bennett of not having Utah values, but Mike Lee having them, with Mike Lee positioned before the Salt Lake Temple.
Yeah, and Bob Bennett with the U.S. Capitol.
A grainy black and white image of the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah, right. You know, both campaigns used the so-called robocalls, the recorded telephone messages, to push their candidacy. Their effectiveness, I guess, is a matter of some debate. Kelly, what do you think? Do robocalls really make a difference? These recorded messages, they're cheap.
They're very cheap. You can reach a large number of people quite easily. Not easy to mobilize, as we've seen in this election. If robocalls had been really effective at mobilization, we'd had 75–80% turnout. Oftentimes what you really get is kind of an overkill. You come home, you have 6 or 7 messages on your phone, delete them all.
Yeah, anecdotally, people are just saying, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Well, but it depends on the issue, Don. And as we'll see with some robocalls we're going to play for our audience, there's an issue that really resonates with Utah voters, and it's nuclear waste. We're downwinders in this state, and it's a rare Utahn that doesn't know somebody who has been impacted by that. And when you can go to an issue that is visceral and that is emotional, robocalls can make a difference, or at least they have that potential, and they may mobilize a fraction and get people talking, get a buzz going. These two candidates were so indistinguishable that if they could find something that differentiated them, and it turns out Mr. Lee's representation of one of the nuclear waste facilities became one of those divisive issues.
Well, and a fraction, when you only have 10% voter turnout or so, a fraction can make all the difference. Let's take a listen to we've recorded some of these robocalls. This first one comes from the Lee campaign.
This is an important election alert. Mike Lee is the only Republican candidate in the race for U.S. Senate who has never profited from earmarks or Obama stimulus money, who has never supported gambling taxpayer money on risky overseas business ventures, and who has never supported recklessly increasing entitlement spending by $394 billion.
That's a true believer making that claim. Tim Bridgewater, of course, wasted no time in responding with his own robocall.
Hi, this is Tim Bridgewater. I'm running for the U.S. Senate. I understand that politics is a rough and tumble sport, but things are getting out of hand. My opponent, D.C.-based lawyer Mike Lee, is spending $200,000 on TV and radio spreading lies and distortions about my business background. I'm calling you to set the record straight. Fact is, I have never profited from Obama stimulus money. That is a blatant lie. I have never sought or profited from congressional earmarks. Again, a desperate lie. My opponent is showing he's willing to say anything and do anything to get elected. I bring the skills and real-world experience that are necessary to tackle our nation's problems. There are already 58 lawyers in the U.S. Senate, and our problems just keep getting worse. We need practical, pragmatic business solutions. If you'll give me your vote on Tuesday, I promise you that I will represent this state and our values with dignity and honor.
And as the old saw goes, time will tell.
Exactly.
Probably within another couple of hours, we'll know whose robocalls were the most effective.
Unless we're going to have a recount.
Unless we have a recount, which is always possible.
It's entirely possible. This could be one of those 50-50 outcomes.
Earlier this evening, Senator Bob Bennett joined us on the telephone from Washington. Very graciously took some time to speak with us about the campaign and about how he sees things in general.
It's demonstrated that June doesn't work very well, and I'm not sure, given where we are in the convention system, that the electorate feels nearly as engaged as they used to. Like, ever since you went to a 60% convention and multiple ballots, it became possible for people to avoid primaries. And the old system that was originally adopted was that the convention picked two. You would always have a primary, so everybody would be involved in it. Now you see primaries becoming less and less the norm, and the voters turn off.
What do you think of the performance, Senator, of the two candidates that came out of the convention? Their performance in the run-up to the primary, I mean.
Well, neither one of them had what one would consider a normal war chest. They both anticipated, hoped that they could get They could get 60% of the convention and thereby avoid a primary. And while Bridgewater has run 2 primaries before, Mike Lee has not. And it kind of showed in the campaigns that they did not have the money that you normally associate with a statewide primary. Without having the money to run a statewide campaign and without having the experience of a statewide campaign, it did not have the kind of, shall we say, marketing professionalism that you usually expect with something of this kind. And to save money, they went to mailers rather than television. And in today's atmosphere, they spent a lot of their time saving money, but time debating this in Facebook, YouTube, blogs, emails, and so on. Well, the general public is yet not attuned to that particular medium to the degree that the delegates are. So the high degree of concern, of attention paid by the delegates that were reached by email and blogs and so on didn't reach the average voter that powerfully.
You're an observer that has looked at Senate races not only in Utah but across the nation for many years and known as a keen observer of these competitive contests. When you look at what happened in Florida, Kentucky, and Nevada, where Tea Party candidates either forced out or defeated better-known candidates, what's your take on the Tea Party movement?
Well, my first take is that it's a mistake to describe the Tea Party movement as being monolithic. And look here in the state of Utah, where the Tea Party seems to have split, with some of them supporting Bridgewater and some of them supporting Lee. The national Tea Party people who say they've won in Utah had as their goal, which they obviously succeeded in achieving, the elimination of me. And once they had achieved that, then they didn't much care who the nominee was, and the local people split. The same thing's true if you go around the country, that there are some Tea Party activists who would be in favor, let us say, of Rand Paul in Kentucky, but might not be in favor of Sharon Angle in Nevada for a series of different reasons. And you look at places where the Tea Party candidate, as labeled by the national press, has fallen short. Dan Coates in Indiana, there was an attempt there to do the same thing with him that was done with me, did not succeed.
Senator, pardon me, we're almost out of time. Just very, very quickly, do you think that the Tea Party movement, be it monolithic or something else, is going to be with us, or is this just a blip on the political radar?
It's much too early to tell. It will depend on what happens to the people who are elected in November. It will depend on the economy, and it will depend on President Obama. I think those 3 things have come together to create this movement. Great resentment of President Obama and his plan, great anger and angst over the state of the economy, and then great concern about the performance of incumbents. Well, once these folks become the incumbents themselves, and you see what happens in the economy, you see how President Obama reacts, then you'll be in a position to say, yes, this is going to last, or a set of circumstances could come together to say, no, this was a one-shot, one-election kind of thing that will disappear. There's really no way at this point of making any absolute certain prediction.
Senator, we'll make that the last word. Thank you very, very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
You know, David, you can quibble with Bob Bennett's voting record, but he has been a very effective senator and has given 18 years of good, honorable, dedicated service to this state. He's been a very effective senator.
That's right, and is seen that way on both sides of the aisle, but especially within his caucus. And he was smart about how he positioned himself to be influential, and I think Utah will not have the same kind of representation for quite some time with him not in the Senate.